everybody. It is Friday Eve. It is Thursday, December the 15th, and we are here for our final night of the gingerbread project. So this is my pile of ornaments that I have so far. And once I get a couple of these guys finished, I'm going to take a short break from creating stuff for the channel, and I'm going to move on to finishing my gnome. So if you joined the chat early, you can see the discussion. You can see the gnomes behind me. Can you guys see those? And I'm going, that's my camera in the way. But as you guys can see, all of my sashes are rainbow colored. There's a different color sash for each block. And I'm going to take all of my leftover pieces and I'm going to chop them into 2.5-inch squares, and I'm going to put them all the way down the right-hand side. And my gnome quilt, I'm going to videotape the entire process of me finishing the top, putting them all together so that you guys can see the sashes and the borders, and that way when New Year's gets here, I will not have another UFO top. It needs to get finished, right? So you guys keep me accountable. I will show you guys my finished top on New Year's Day. All right, friends, look at what I have here. Look at my pile. This was so much fun. So whenever I start the creative process, I just get an idea in my head. So for example, the gnomes. A friend of mine asked me, she said, "Are gnomes only for Christmas?" And I said, you know, they're not. And so I just kind of started working and sketching and drawing and writing all these ideas in a notebook. And then here we are a year later. The gnome quilt was born, and we've had literally 50,000 people that have downloaded the gnome quilt. So there's going to be a lot of gnome quilts all over the place. There's going to be gnome quilts in Australia, in England, in Canada, all over the US. There's going to be gnome quilts in Mexico and maybe even in Puerto Rico. Who knows where all the gnome quilts are going to be. But anyway, say hello to everybody in the chat, and let's get talking about what I have done here. So I went through and I tested all kinds of different techniques, right? So stitching by machine was a technique that I tried on felt. You do not need interfacing to stitch on felt as long as you starch it. So if you starch it, you don't need interfacing. So you can even embroider using the embroidery features on your machine. So that was an important thing that I learned through this process, because all of these are experiments, and that's why they're quilt-alongs or sew-alongs. So you're sewing along with me, or you're watching from home as I sew. That way you can join me in my process. Oh, one of my students is on here. Hi, Harley. So happy about that. The other thing that I showed you guys was how to do like 3-dimensional things. A little bit of hand stitching here. This is an invisible stitch. This was a machine stitch. And so all of these things contributed to my knowledge base as well as yours. Sewing with metallic thread, 2 threads instead of 4, much easier. You can do a variety of things such as couching, or you can even do, see this one right here. This one was done through bobbin work. So I did this upside down and I stitched it from the wrong side with my fat thread or yarn in the bobbin. I did this one by hand, and I did just kind of wrapped around and around a yarn, and I like how that looks. It's kind of 3-dimensional. So that was a different way of doing it. I used fusible web and glue to put the candy cane together, and I like how that turned out. This is interfaced and then turned inside out, and then I satin stitched that heart, and then I finished the edges just like that with a blanket stitch, and I like how all of these look. So you guys saw a chain stitch. A chain stitch is a great way to add detail, so you guys can see that. It looks really cute. I'm going to go back and chain stitch a couple of these others. And then, of course, you guys saw my little ginger girl, Holly. And I haven't decided if she's going to get blush on her cheeks or not, because I like the way she looks. I think she looks really, really cute. All right, so this is what I have done so far. And now the last thing that I wanted to experiment with and share with you is my happy little star. So let me pull my star and let me show you what I've got. So of course, like I did all of the other bits, right? And let me reach back here. This was my little star, right? And I thought, how am I going to stitch all of this down? Well, one way of doing it would be to satin stitch it on my embroidery machine or my sewing machine. Or another one would be to use that fabric ink that I was talking to you guys about. And I wanted you to see my process. So for tonight's episode, you're just going to use a 5-inch square of yellow. And then I used two 5-inch pieces of the tan, and I blanket stitched all the way around, and I have my little wonky star. And if you notice, he's a little wonky. It doesn't look wonky when he's on paper, but when you cut it out, he's a wonky little star. And let me move my big pile of things over. And one of the things that you have to do if you're going to use fabric ink is you're going to want to starch your piece so that it's stiff, and also so that your fabric ink doesn't sink down into the fibers, because it will. You're going to have to do this more than one time. So what I did is I got one of these little glue dispensers. I have about a dozen of these that I bought, and I dilute regular washable Elmer's glue, and I use that for basting my bindings. It works really great. But in this little bottle, I put some of this fabric ink, and so I started this before you guys came tonight, and I'm just going to show you how you go about this process. So you get these little needle point dispensers, and they're really great because you're going to have to do this a couple of times to get it to look dimensional and to get it not to sink into the fiber. So the first time that you're doing this, you're simply laying down your lines and you're going to let it dry. And then the second time you do it, you're actually going to get some dimension, and you have to let this dry. And when this dries, this has like a rubbery texture, almost like screen printing on a t-shirt. So if you've ever had one of those t-shirts that has screen printing on there, that has like a rubbery texture, that's how this feels. You're just going to go through and you're going to pull this, and you're just going to squeeze from the center on out. And you're going to give it a line. Then the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to pull from the center, and that's why it has that little ball design, and you're going to come out like this, and you're going to make little balls. Always, whenever you're working with paints, work from the center to the outside so that you don't get your hands in the middle. So if I were to paint out here and then try to paint in the middle, I would probably get paint all over my fingers. So if you want to avoid getting stuff on your fingers, always paint from the center to the outside. I found this fabric ink at Michael's Crafts. And let me see if you guys can see if I can adjust the... Can you guys see that? It's called Fabric Creations Soft Fabric Ink. And so that is what I'm using. So I'm using it, and it's for screen printing at home. And so I'm just doing it like this, and I'm going to let this dry, right? And I'm going to end up doing this a couple of times. Now you could find, they sell something called Scribbles Puffy Paint, and I'm sure that would also look really nice on here. You could even get a glitter paint, and I think that would look okay. But you're just going to want to dab it on the surface and then let it dry, right? And then come back and do the little branches. So you're going to come out like this and do a little branch, come out like this and do a little branch. And like I said, lay it on a surface that allows you to rotate it. Don't put too much because it will ooze everywhere. And so less is more, and you can come back and do other coats. So you're going to have to do multiple coats, kind of like when you paint a wall that has never been painted before in a house, like it has just raw drywall. And it takes quite a bit of this. And so I am just going to do it like this because this is an ornament. I'm not too worried about it. If I wanted to come back in here and do something glittery, I could come back and do something glittery. But this is simply a soft fabric ink, and it, like I said, it dries kind of rubbery, and it makes a really beautiful little tiny star. And guess what? We're all pressed for time this time of the year, so I don't really have time to sit there and play with a bunch of thread on this guy. So this one is going to end up like this. Yes, you can use acrylic paint for this. That's not a problem. This is just a specific textile medium that's more flexible. But you can most certainly use some acrylic paint on this and let it dry and see the surface. It actually looks like a frosted cookie. And I like how that looks. What do you guys think? Do you guys like that one? And this is my guide. I just lay it beside there. And so that's what it's going to end up looking, right? Super simple, nothing fancy. For the ginger babies, if you downloaded the ginger babies, these little guys right here, let me set this aside so I don't get paint all over the place. For the ginger babies, they're slightly smaller than these, for example, these 5x5 ginger babies, because I wanted these to be like the size of a cookie. So if you have these, you're going to want to make these ginger babies a little bit stuffy like I did this one last night. And you're going to want to buy some rickrack. So on my ginger babies, I'm going to just put rickrack on the legs, and I'm going to put buttons for their eyes, maybe some snaps, just like I did this one. So they're going to get snaps for eyes, and they're going to get rickrack for their legs and arms. So when I get these little ginger babies finished, I will post those on the Facebook page, and I will post them on the community tab so that you can do that. All right, so now you guys are going to vote of all of the cookies. Which one was your favorite? The little hat? Little Holly the ginger baby? The swirly twirly cookie? The wonky star? The love cookie? The candy cane? The light? Or the little Christmas tree? So you tell me which one of these that you liked, or the little Swedish star. So of all of these ornaments, I want you to tell me in the chat which one of these was your favorite. You guys like Holly? I knew you guys would, right? She looks like this little cartoon character, the little ginger baby. I like, oh, these little guys? All right, so these are all of the ornaments. Does anybody have any questions or any other burning things that I didn't answer in the previous chats? Yeah, I love the candy cane too. This one is super cute. I don't know, they're all adorable. I like the hat too. So if I were to pick favorites, I would say that my favorites are, and maybe it's because red is my favorite color. So if I vote for favorites, these are mine right here. If I had to pick favorites, I think these are my favorites right here because the little hat looks cute in both. And I really like how these turned out. And I like them in both. I like them in felt and in fabric. The Swedish star, isn't that cute? I do like this little guy. It's super cute. And it does look like a cookie. It did end up looking the most like a cookie as compared to the others. All right, so that is the project. All of the supplies are on the website, so if you didn't get those, please go down there. I encourage you to play with these, make memories with somebody you love, because these were a lot of fun and they didn't take that much time. So maybe each of the ornaments took me about an hour to make, and so that's not too bad. And so now that we're going to put this away, in 2 weeks we're going to be moving to a new project, right? Oh, you like the skills the heart taught? Yeah. Look at that satin stitching. I really had to perfect my satin stitching there. Do you guys see that? I stitched all the way across and I had to come around. So I had to work on some of my handwork. So this was good handwork practice. All right, so now let's talk about the table runner of the month, right? The table runner of the month is going to involve pre-cuts. Every month, you're going to create a row / table runner, so you can combine the rows and turn them into a quilt, or you can make individual table runners. And I'm going to have bonus content. So let me show you what I did for my first one. The very first one is January, right? For my 2 yards of background, I pulled this from my stash. And this is like a white dot that looks, it's kind of like off-white, like a snow colored, and it has these little dots. Right, so that is what I'm doing as my background. So this is my 2 yards of background, okay? I also pulled, and this is optional, so this is going to be mine. I pulled this for my border. And I pulled this one because it reminds me of a cold, snowy, wintry day. Look at that. These are like frozen tree branches with a little bit of gray and a slight blue color. And that is going to be my border, right? So for my border, I have 1 yard of this. I'm not going to use it all, but I have a yard, and I just pulled it for this project. Next, you're going to need 15 jelly roll strips. And let me show you what I mean by a jelly roll strip. A jelly roll strip is a full 2.5 inches by width of fabric, right? And how can you get a jelly roll? There's more than one way to get a jelly roll, right? You can use 1/4 yard cuts, and 1/4 yard cuts will give you, so this is a 1/4 yard cut, which is 9 inches of fabric, right? And this is one of the pieces that I'm using in my quilt. So this is 9 inches. If I cut 2.5 inch strips, 9 inches by width of fabric, right? And this is a regular 1/4 yard, so it's long by the width of the bolt. It's not a fat quarter, although you could use fat quarters if you wanted to. I'm going to wash these, and I'm going to cut 3 strips from 5 different prints. And let me show you the prints that I have pulled. And I always pull more than what I need. That's why I end up with so many scraps. So this is color 1 that I'm going to be using. This is color 2 that I'm going to be using. And I pulled these colors because they remind me of cool, icy winter scenes. Notice how close these are. I might pull this one out and use this one in the runner and also use it in the border. I'm still trying to decide, but I'll let you guys know when I get my final one. I want a variety of scale. If you notice, this is small scale, this is large scale, right? Because it makes a quilt more interesting when you pull fabric that's not all the same. So this is a small scale, medium scale, large scale. See how big the design is? This design is medium, and then this design is almost tone on tone. So I like to pull a variety of colors, and I also like to pull a variety of scales. The next color that I pulled from my stash, and I'm going to be cutting 3 jelly roll strips from each of these colors, was this dark, dark blue. Right? So now you see what I'm starting to go with. The next color I pulled was this that looks like water. And I pulled that one because it's just for texture, and it's got a little bit of aqua. It has more gray and a little bit of aqua, so it adds another color, even though it's subtle, right? So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 colors, and I need a 5th one. And so from my stash, I've pulled these 3, right? I have an aqua, right? It's like a Tiffany blue I could add to this pile. I could add a brighter blue, and this one is like a peacock colored. It doesn't look that way on the webcam, but it looks kind of peacock colored. Or I could add this one because it adds a little bit of interest. It has like a little periwinkle, a little bit of green, and all of these are all cool tones. So I may just leave that in there, and I may use 1 strip of each of these. So I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That I would cut 3 strips from each and get 12. And then maybe I would cut 1, 1, and 1 just to give it a little bit of balance in terms of color, scale, and kind of make it more visually interesting. So I want my table runner to look like winter because it's a wintry color. And so this is what I'm going to pull for my table runner of the month, right? Each table runner will be about 60 inches, so between 60 and 65 inches wide, and it'll be between 12 and 18 inches wide, you know, depending on the pattern that we use. So I will post the pattern for the table runner of the month at least 2 days before. So the live stream is on January the 1st at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that means I will post the pattern the previous Friday, the 30th, on the website. I will post it in the community tab of the YouTube channel, and I will post it on Facebook. So I'll post the link for the free pattern, and it'll tell you what to do, but you really just need to cut your 15 jelly roll strips. So if you're using yardage like I am, or fat quarters, or even layer cakes, you could use layer cakes on these, then you could cut them into 2.5-inch strips. Okay. Let's see. Tina says, I should help you decide on what's best to choose from. This is my example of all the colors that I would choose so you can see what I'm choosing. The other option that I had, if I hadn't pulled these from my stash, would be to pull a layer cake. And so this is a layer cake that's in my stash. And this is also very wintry. And so you see this one is almost black. It's so dark. This one has a variety of scale, but some of these remind me more of the ocean and more of water and less of winter. And that's why I decided not to use this layer cake, because some of these definitely just looked more kind of beachy. See, that one gave me a beachy vibe more than a winter vibe. So I decided to save this for maybe another time. I might pull 1 or 2 of these squares and use them for that. Okay, so let's talk about pre-cuts. A layer cake that has 42 pieces, right? A standard layer cake is 2.75 yards. That is what you need for a table runner. So if you have a layer cake, this works. If you cut one 10-inch square into 2.5-inch strips that are 2.5 by 10, that is the same as a regular jelly roll strip. So that's the equivalent. If you have a layer cake and a jelly roll, those are the same. Let me show you. So if I take this jelly roll strip, right, and I divide it into 5 pieces that are 10 inches long, right, so what I'm going to get, 1, 2, 3, 4 is enough to make 1 strip. Okay. And so that is going to be the pattern. And the pattern is called Black Tie Affair. So you guys will see, I will show you how to make it. It's a single block. So it's going to have 1 block. And then there's an applique for optional placemats. So just be thinking about that. If you're ready to make your table runner, go play in your stash. Go look around, find 15 jelly roll strips that remind you of winter in colors such as navy, black, gray, periwinkle. But if you stick with cool colors, then you should be just fine. And this is my fabric pull. For the first table runner of the month, this is what I'm going to be pulling for mine. And I'm going to be using this snowy looking print as my background and my backing. Okay. Yes, you can make every table runner for a whole gift next year. And so you're going to have 12 table runners, or you can just make them all the same color. So let's say that you wanted to turn these table runners into a whole quilt. You could actually just make them with the same color scheme every month, and you can put them together. You could put however many you needed for your quilt, and you could put them together and make a large bed-size quilt if you really wanted to. Does anybody have any questions about the fabric pull for the table runner of the month? Does anyone have any questions about the little gingerbread cookie project we just did? And if you have any other ideas for projects that you think that we should do together, you let me know. The purpose of the Jelly Roll Club is literally to create a sewing and quilting community so that you guys give me feedback and we work on things together as we go. So we take them all in little chunks and in manageable bites, and we create beautiful things together. So you let me know if you have any other ideas, and I will do my best. And Tina, there is a snowflake, but it's in the December one. So the December of 2023, it has a wintry star, and there's snowflakes in that one. So we're doing black tie in honor of New Year's. So you're going to get to see, this is going to be fun and easy, this first one. Table runner, the very first one, let me pull the pattern. If you guys want, I could drop the link to the first table runner in the chat if you guys want a sneak peek. Why not, huh? Do you guys want a sneak peek? Let me go into my Google Drive and see what I've got. Because why not, right? Let me see. Row runner of the month. This first one is going to be 64 inches long by 16 inches wide, but you guys can make it 20 inches wide by 64, or you can add additional blocks, okay? And let me grab a link. And I'm going to grab the link and I'm going to go ahead and share it with you guys. And I'm going to drop it in the chat as well. And I'm going to put it on the website. So I'm going to copy that link. Are you guys ready for the link? Do you guys want to be early birds? All right, here it comes. I'm sharing the link. Oh, I can't take this back. All right, friends, there it is. It's the very first one. And guess what you guys have? You guys will see Penny the Penguin. She's your optional applique. That's going to be our placemat. And then the bow tie, which is why it's called Bow Tie Affair, is going to be the block that you're going to be learning how to make. I'm going to show you how to make a 3D bow tie, a traditional bow tie. And so you guys get in there and start playing, and then go pick out some fabric. Go play with some fabric tonight, okay? All right, friends, I appreciate you joining me. I think this was a lot of fun, and we've got a lot more projects coming up. So Penny the Penguin is in honor of one of the ladies in my family. So anyway, this is a ton of fun for me, and I hope you guys are having fun too. And I will see you guys on New Year's Day at 2 o'clock. Until then, get some rest. Drink lots of hot cocoa, watch Christmas movies. I'm going to watch Christmas Chronicles, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with my grandkids. As a matter of fact, we got a cookie date next week, and I'm going to post pictures of my official cookie testers. So we're going to try out that gingerbread cookie recipe that I put on the website. So if you haven't seen it, go grab that gingerbread cookie recipe, because that's what I'm doing next week. All right, everybody, you guys have a great night. Get some rest, enjoy the holidays, and I will see you guys on New Year's Day at 2 o'clock. All right, everybody, have a good one. Bye-bye. This has been a lot of fun. Bye, everybody. Good night. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Bye-bye now.